I'm about to share something that I have never shared with any writer I've ever worked with. These are the 7 fundamental things I look for in scripts when evaluating them and figuring out where it has a weak spot and how to improve it. Look, after a decade in Hollywood reading thousands of scripts and personally coaching over 600 writers, fundamental problems with any of those scripts come down to 7 single things. I personally call them the 7 sacred ingredients of storytelling, something that I have had up on my wall since the very first episode of Plotluck. And in this video, I'm not just going to give you a list. I'm going to give you a personal diagnostic system. We're talking about purpose, emotion, rhythm, resonance, perspective, change, and friction. Once you learn to see your work through this lens, you can turn that draft that's been torturing you into a script or a book you can't wait for the world to read. When a narrative doesn't land, it's almost always because one of these ingredients is diluted or missing. And here's the key. A weakness in one area creates a very specific, predictable crack in your story. We're going to break these down one by one. For each ingredient, I'll explain what it is, show you the damage that happens when it's absent from a scene or the story as a whole, and give you the diagnostic questions I use with my own clients. First, the bedrock of all of it, purpose. This is all about function. At the story level, it's about the narrative's overall goal. At the scene level, purpose is ensuring every single moment has a specific job to do. It actively moves the story. It applies pressure, or it shifts dynamic. It's the why a scene exists right now. What breaks without it? A story without a clear purpose kind of wanders aimlessly. Scenes feel disconnected, and the plot has no momentum because nothing seems to have a function. At the scene level, a lack of purpose creates filler. Moments that may be really well written, but ultimately go nowhere. And it basically will stop your story dead. A scene without a job is just dead weight. So to diagnose for purpose, ask yourself these questions. First, what is the single most important function of this scene? Is it to introduce a character, reveal a clue, escalate conflict, change a relationship? Second, does this specific scene I'm writing actively serve the larger plot? And third, the most brutal question, if I cut this scene, does the story break? And be honest, does it still work after? If the answer is no, the scene doesn't have a strong enough purpose. So here's the quick fix. Define the 1-sentence job description for every scene you write. This scene's job is to show the hero's mentor is not who he seems. Now every line must serve that function. A scene about the hero fixing his car is a waste of space if it doesn't really serve the plot. But a scene where the hero struggles to fix his car while his mentor refuses to help, revealing a selfish streak, well, now that season has a clear and vital purpose. A clear purpose gives you a function, but it's useless if the audience doesn't feel the journey. That brings us to our second ingredient, emotion. Emotion is the currency of story. It's not about what happens, it's about how your characters feel about what happens, which in turn dictates how the audience feels. What breaks without it? Well, without emotion, your characters are just kind of puppets. Scenes read like these kind of sterile incident reports, not lived-in human experiences. A character's death becomes a logistical problem, not a gut-wrenching tragedy. The audience might understand the events, but they won't be invested in any sort of outcome. So to check for emotion, ask yourself, within this scene, am I showing the character's internal reaction before they take external action? Does this scene make the audience feel a specific intended emotion? Am I feeling dread, joy, relief, or am I just kind of observing? And looking at the whole story, is my character's emotional journey escalating? Or are they stuck in one emotional state for pages or entire acts? The quick fix is this. For every scene, name the single dominant emotion you want the audience to feel. Then go inside your character's experience. Don't write, she was angry. A scene without emotion is more, she saw her partner betray her. But a scene with emotion is more like coffee cup and her hand grew hot, then cold. She watched them from across the cafe, laughing with the one person he swore was just a friend. It wasn't a loud shattering, but a quiet, deep crack that started in her chest, a fault line she knew had been there for months. That's the difference between information and emotional experience. Now let's talk about the story's heartbeat, rhythm. Now this is one that a lot of people struggle with because once they start getting things down like scenes and emotion and purpose, The problem becomes something on a more granular level, on this sort of rhythmic beat between your lines, between characters and dialogue, between the scenes and the ebb and flow in the story, between the antagonist and the protagonist. Rhythm is really the pacing and flow of your storytelling, both within a scene and across the entire script. It's the dance between tension and release, short sentences during a chase, and the long flowing descriptions during quiet reflection. A great story has a rhythm that feels alive. What breaks without it? Well, a story with a monotonous rhythm is exhausting. At the story level, it's either this relentless sprint that numbs the audience, or it's this long, slow dirge that puts them to sleep. The classic saggy middle of your script. At the scene level, a flat rhythm means impactful moments fly by without ever really landing, while those simple moments can really drag on, which kills momentum. So how do you find your script's rhythm? Read your work out loud. Where do you naturally speed up? Where do you get bored? The script is telling you where its rhythm is broken. Are you balancing your tempos across the story? Do you have quiet, character-driven scenes that earn your bigger set pieces? Within a scene, does it feel like it breathes? Or does it just kind of plod along from one beat to the next like this checklist? Or that every character has to wait until the other finishes their sentence? Here's the quick fix. Take a bird's eye view of your script. Get out a highlighter and mark your scenes as fast, slow, or medium. If you see a sea of yellow for slow across your entire second act, you've just diagnosed your saggy middle. You know you need to inject conflict. If a tense scene feels slow, look at your sentence length or your dialogue length. You're really a composer of moments and moods, so make sure that it can rev up and slow down, or dialogue can either listen to each other or can talk over one another. Our fourth ingredient is what separates a good story from a great one: resonance. If purpose is the function of a scene or overall plot, resonance is its after effect. It's the emotional echo a scene leaves behind. So it makes the conflict feel personal and ensures the moment lingers long after it's over. Resonance is really what makes a story stick with you. What breaks without it? Well, a story without resonance is disposable or forgetful. It might be entertaining, but it's ultimately forgettable because it's never connected with anything true about our shared humanity. The scene might feel fun, but they add up to something sort of hollow. It's all surface, no soul. A scene can have purpose, but without resonance, it won't have true impact. To evaluate for resonance, ask these questions. Beyond the plot, what deeper human question does this scene explore? For example, what is the cost of revenge? What feeling or idea do I want to linger with the audience after the scene is over? And it doesn't always have to be a clean answer. It can be an open-ended question. It can be something where you never quite give the answer to them, and they're left leaving the theater, putting down your book, and wondering about it for weeks. Another question is, does the conflict in the scene feel personal to the characters? And by extension, does it tap into some universal experience for the audience? So here's the quick fix. Find your story's core theme and phrase it as a question. How much of ourselves must we sacrifice for what we love? Now ensure your scenes are not just plot devices, but explorations of that question. A character chooses to sell their beloved bookshop isn't just a scene with the purpose of raising money. It becomes a scene that resonates with the universal pain of sacrificing a dream for a loved one. That is something that stays with you. But like I said before, a great way to do this is frame your theme as a question instead of a statement. Next ingredient number 5, perspective. This is the camera lens for the story. It's your chosen point of view, and it's about that deliberate control of information. What the audience knows and when they know it. Is the whole story locked in one character's anxious mind, or does each scene choose the most impactful character to follow? What breaks without it? Well, inconsistent perspective creates confusion and emotional distance. At the scene level, head hopping, jumping from one character's thoughts to another, gives the reader a sort of whiplash. If your perspective is too distant and objective, the scenes lose their sort of intimacy with the characters. Now, sometimes that could be a choice that you make, so I don't want to say that you have to do that, but it gives you an idea of thinking of it on a level of your POV, and perspective changes the way that we interpret the story by the information you give. To diagnose your script's perspective, ask, for each scene, is the POV consistent? And more importantly, is it the most effective choice for this moment? Does my chosen perspective hide or reveal information at the exact right moment to create maximum suspense, surprise, or empathy? Am I shifting POV as a lazy shortcut to explain things? Or am I making a deliberate, powerful choice for this scene? The quick fix is simple, but also very powerful. For every scene, commit to a point of view. Filter every description and action through that one character's biases and emotional state. An office isn't just an office. Through the eyes of a character who's about to be fired, that same office becomes this sterile, judgmental sort of prison where every clock tick is getting louder and louder. You haven't changed the location, but you've used perspective to create tension out of thin air. Now, our sixth ingredient is the very definition of story: change. A story promises transformation. The person we meet on page 1 cannot be the same on the final page. Well, they can be in certain circumstances, but that choice has to be motivated. See, change is that sort of irreversible shift in a character or their world, but it doesn't happen all at once. It's earned moment to moment in your scenes. So what breaks without it? A story without change is static. It's a loop, not a journey. The characters aren't growing, so the plot can't really advance. At the scene level, if nothing is changed by the end of it, that scene has failed, tying it back to purpose. It's a car spinning its wheels in the mud. There's noise and smoke, but it's not going anywhere. So to evaluate your script for change, ask, look at your protagonist's journey from page 1 to the end. Can you clearly articulate how they have fundamentally evolved? Now look at the scene level. Does it begin in one state and end in a completely different one? Does a relationship move from trusting to broken? Does a belief move from certain to shattered? Does it cause a sort of cause and effect relationship going into the next scene? Does it feel like a believable consequence of the trials they have endured? The quick fix for this? Think of your scenes as pivots. End every scene with a discovery, a decision, or some sort of action that carries us forward and makes it impossible to go back. For example, a character is hesitant to commit to a cause. The scene ends not with them just agreeing, but with them publicly burning a bridge to their old life. They can't go back. That is this sort of irreversible scene-level change that forces the story forward. And finally, the engine that drives it all: friction. Now, friction is this constant, active source of conflict. It must exist in the story as a whole, but it does a lot of its work in scenes. It's not just the villain in the castle. It's the subtext-filled argument over dinner. It's the resistance that allows the story to move forward. What breaks without it? Well, a story without friction is boring, period. Without constant, palpable tension in your scenes, there are no meaningful stakes for the story. There's no narrative drive. Characters who get what they want easily are not interesting at all. A car with no road to grip just spins its wheels. So here's how to check your script for friction. Is there a source of active opposition in every scene? Not a vague threat, but a present obstacle blocking what the character wants right now. Does the friction escalate throughout the story? As the hero gets closer to their goal, does the world push back harder and harder? Are you letting your characters off the hook too easily within your scenes? Do they solve problems the moment they appear? Here's the quick fix though. Stop being so kind to your protagonist. Put them through trials to see what they're really made of. Never give your hero just one problem at a time. Layer the friction in the scene. Your hero is trying to defuse a bomb, external friction, but they're also having a crisis of confidence after a past failure, right? There's the internal friction. And then their estranged child is calling on the phone in desperate need. All of a sudden you've added relational friction there. A simple bomb scene just became an electrifying referendum on the character's entire life, having to face these constant dilemmas and friction that makes things harder and harder. So there you have it. Purpose, emotion, rhythm, resonance, perspective, change, and friction. This is my toolkit. These are the 7 lenses I look through for every story and every scene that I analyze. The next time you're stuck, pull out that checklist, go through your script or even just the one scene that's fighting you, and rate each of these ingredients on a scale of 1 to 10. Be brutally honest. Is your scene's resonance a 2, but its friction is a 9? Well, it's probably really exciting, but it probably doesn't mean a lot. And now you have the tools to fix it. You now have the same framework that I use to systematically diagnose why a story isn't working, and more importantly, to know with confidence how to make it better. And once again, I'm Brian. This is Plotluck. And if you've ever loved a story, felt let down by one, or dreamed of telling your own, pull up a chair, hit subscribe, and let's stir the plot together. That's a wrap.